and staff and to this morning's deliberations. So we are live streaming today, so also a special welcome to those who have chosen to listen in. So we had 28 submissions, and we have two people who wish to speak to these submissions today, David Favell and Janine Bowden from the Ashburton Police. So I thank them for their time to come along this morning and speak to us. So both submitters have 5 minutes to present and 5 minutes of questions from councillors. So welcome, David, and all the councillors have read submissions, so we're well aware of everyone's point of view, but the floor is yours. So if you push your button on the right hand side.
Thank you. So, why? You have a perfectly good, and as far as I can tell, working area, and it's reasonably well defined, reasonably well sign written, and you want to fragment it into what basically seems like car parks. The submission, the leaflet that went out wasn't overly clear, but it did state something about liquor licences down at the southern end. They close at about 9 or 9:30, and the liquor ban starts at 9. So there's not going to be a lot of customers hanging around. The middle area that you're talking about, they close around 9 and 9:30, so all you're left with is a car park. And the northern area has Countdown and the event centre. Countdown closes at 9, and the event centre are quite strict on drinks leaving their premises. And I'd be interested to know, apart from call-outs or fights and things, how many times the police are actually patrolling the area that's currently liquor ban, and how many times they plan to patrol the 3 new areas. So, yeah, I suppose the question is why?
Thank you. So, the questions, councillors.
Is there something special about car parks? Something special about these car parks, not New World's car parks or McDonald's car parks? Why not just make the 4 avenues liquor ban areas? Very easily defined.
Does any councillor have any questions they wish to ask David?
Or even an answer to why? Why these areas?
Oh, sorry, I can't see.
No problem. Just through the chair, just to provide a point of clarification, the purpose of the hearing is for council to ask any further questions of your submission. They actually aren't in a position to be able to answer your questions at this point because they need to give due consideration to all submissions that have been made through the process.
Cool. In that case, I'm good. I'll wait for a why.
Okay.
We good?
Yep.
Thank you.
David. Thanks for coming. Cool.
Thank you.
Welcome, Janine. So can I introduce Janine Bowden from the Ashburton Police. Obviously the New Zealand Police have submitted and wish to speak to their submission. So Janine, could I just advise councillors that Janine is here today to talk on her submission only, and what she will do now. Thank you, Janine. Page 21, I think it is. 21.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here today and speak in relation to this important tool for police in relation to, managing intoxication and things like that in and around the streets. My letter, as I understood, I don't really need to. It's been tabled.
Yes.
So I think the position's fairly clearly outlined from the police perspective. I'd be happy to take any questions that anybody has.
Okay, thank you. Questions, councillors?
I've got a question.
Okay. Thanks,
Thank you. Through the chair. Morning, Janine.
Morning.
So the police seen any areas, and we've just had car parks mentioned, where people are congregating, and I know you've mentioned preloading or side loading, which is a new word for me, around the Ashburton area. Is there sort of one area more than another that you're seeing?
Preloading and side-loading, I don't think they're a new phenomenon. I
No.
think it's been around for a long time. They've put a name on it now. I had to check side-loading as well. But certainly I've seen empty, bottles of alcohol, containers that contain alcohol in the car parking areas in between Burnett and Tancred Street and around licensed premises. Certainly open areas that are darkened. We patrol on the roads. I suppose there is the opportunity for people to gather in their cars in those areas and whip out of wherever they're drinking in licensed premises and drink alcohol they've brought into the area.
Thank you.
Thank you. Richard?
Morning. I'm concerned or interested to see your views on how the unintended consequences of, if I use that, go the extreme, the cough medicine transporting through the zone. How do the police, because it's an alcohol, it's defined as alcohol in the bylaw, because it's any alcohol is any liquid that contains 1.15 levels of. I know but it's more. I'm not in favour of laws that are. We won't use that law, but we can. So just how would how does the police view that sort of the transportation of liquor? That's probably the one.
I would like to think that we took a very pragmatic, sensible view in relation to that. And reasonable.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, side loading is a new word for me too. Can we have the definition of side loading, please?
Side
Sure,
loading.
Janine's got an idea, a bit more than me.
Side loading is the phenomenon where people are in, for instance, licensed premises, and they leave licensed premises, go to somewhere nearby, on the side, if you like, in a car park area or whatever. They've already brought alcohol they've purchased elsewhere, maybe from off licenses or brought from home, and they drink it on the side out in the car park. And I think I drew attention into my letter that duty managers in licensed premises, they have obligations in relation to intoxication and managing that and being vigilant in relation to that. So when people go outside, they can also consume alcohol in an uncontrolled way and then go back into licensed premises. There's a lot of licensed premises have rules on, what they will serve in there, the alcohol content and various things like that. But there's some spirits and things out there which people can get it off licenses which have a really high alcohol level. I can recall incidents myself where someone went outside to a car park area, consumed alcohol of a really high alcohol content and then went back inside.
Yep.
The side loading, as you described, is it a big problem, a small problem, or happens just every now and then?
It's a regular occurrence, and I think if you went to Christchurch or any other large metro environment, it's just a phenomenon that occurs everywhere where I guess you have licensed premises. Students, I think it's quite a big phenomenon with there's an economic drive behind it. Certainly if you go to licensed premises, you're going to pay X amount, for a for a drink. So the economic benefit of side loading is you can go out to your car and you can consume alcohol that you've purchased elsewhere, and it actually isn't at a retail, that retail price that you'd incur in the premise.
And would you say that it occurs mostly in car parks? Or is there somewhere else?
I suppose it occurs anywhere in and around the area of licensed premises. So whether that would be a car park, on the road, car parks, roads, anywhere in and around licensed premises where you can do it undetected. Back in the day, people used to go outside nightclubs and smoke drugs and do things like that. It's just somewhere you can just leave that premises and undertake that activity.
And they'd need somewhere, obviously, to store the stash. And a car's
a
obvious place, yeah.
It is not, and it's often how people have got there anyway. I've heard of side loading where people have gone to all sorts of trouble. They've hidden it in bushes days prior, things like that. Honestly, there's some fairly ingenuous sort of, once the fences have gone up, people have already been in and hidden stuff.
Thank you.
Phil?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Hi, Janine. Since some of the bans have been in place, have you noticed improvement and likes of litter and whatever the aftermath as well?
It provides us. I've been policing in Ashburton for quite a long time, since 2013, back in uniform as a sergeant, and certainly it just allows us to have an opportunity to engage with people, and certainly young people that have brought alcohol into the CBD area, and we can actually take some action in relation to that. So there's certainly, it allows us to engage with people, prevent things from happening, and I just don't think anyone wants young people under 18 years of age in and around public areas consuming alcohol.
Leads me to a supplementary, if I may. So does the proposed areas go far enough in your mind?
Look, I'm quite happy with the proposed areas. It's just, I guess, in relation to anything else would be if we're future-proofing the legislation, where else there might be licensed premises or going in the future.
Thank you.
The one or two submitters did make a comment that they didn't think the police were enforcing the ban in the areas now. I suppose we need an assurance if we extend out further that police do have the capabilities to enforce those bans. Also, I'll give you a chance to respond to that.
We certainly are patrolling in and around those areas and those what we call the high-risk times, high-demand times in relation to intoxication and harm that's caused potentially by alcohol or excessive alcohol consumption. We do that in and around other calls for service and other things that we've got going on. But certainly, we have had with COVID, level 4, level 3 lockdowns in recent years. It has we've operated in an environment that has been a little bit different, but certainly we would be looking to undertake patrolling and enforcement where we could in and around anywhere the council would look at putting an alcohol ban in.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Oh, sorry.
We're talking about car parks as issues or possible issues there. Are you patrolling council parks reserves, or do you notice anything drinking going on in there as well, or just your observations? What are you seeing out there?
I think people who don't want to be detected drinking alcohol, potentially because of their age, or they are side-loading as a group. A lot of people find places where they won't be detected That's what they look for, and that can be reserves and it can be car parks and things like that. So we certainly patrol car parking areas, reserves where we can. We get a lot of information from the public, about where activities occurring, often in relation to street racing or various things, and including where young people gather. So a lot of what we do in our biggest operating strategy is about prevention. Obviously, there's that enforcement arm of the police, but it's better to prevent something than have to enforce it. So that high visibility presence of us in and around town and reserves and car parks, we hope that actually just makes people stop, think, readjust. So that is the prevention model that that we're really focused on.
So you don't drive into any of the council reserves or parks themselves on your patrols?
Some of them have chains up, do they? Or which
Yeah, after a certain time, yes.
Yeah. We certainly,
There's little
the
parks.
domain, we certainly would try, and often if people can hear activity in those parks, if they're adjacent to houses, and ring up and just, we would respond. But there's a lot of parks and a lot of lovely green places around Ashburton.
Thanks, Janine. Any further questions from councillors? If not, thanks, Janine. Thanks for giving up your time and coming in.
Thank you very much.
And also to David. So you're more than welcome to, we are an open committee, so you're more than welcome to stay if you wish. Okay, so we get Femke and Mark back up again. Yep. Okay. Welcome, Femke and Mark. So the floor is yours again.
So we'll just get the presentation up,
Yeah.
ready to go.
Should a couple of draft yes.
So I think the approach that we'll take is to work through the presentation and answer any questions and consider everything as we work through, including what's the other submissions that have been made. So happy with that approach?
Yes.
All right, good morning. All right, so the deliberations. Maybe first to start with, just to get back on the purpose of the alcohol control bylaw, so we know what we are referring to today. And this is just a way of describing how we normally tackle the deliberations. We're assuming that all submissions have been read. We'll go through, as Mark said, through all the main topics, the specific questions that have been asked in the consultation document. We will ask for your direction on each of the questions that we asked the community, and any other of the comments that have been made in the submissions. So this is actually what was in the consultation document, what council proposed to ask the community. We have referred to expanding the alcohol ban areas because the town is growing and there are newly developed areas with licensed premises, and because of the reference, as also just discussed just now, to larger car parks or other areas. These were the three blocks in Ashburton, as you can see below, that were identified through the pre-consultation that we would that could be considered to be added to the current alcohol ban areas. So in blue is what the current bylaw has as the alcohol ban area, and then you've got block A, B and C that are proposed to being added, and that is what is being consulted on with the community. And in Medford, it's a small loop, but we'll have a specific map of each area when we discuss that.
Oh, can I just ask a question, please? Sorry, through the chair. when David Fable just made his submission, he asked why New World wasn't included, but from that map, New World is, the car park's already included
That is correct.
in it anyway, yeah. So we're just adding that area, which is, number C is the countdown, the north countdown.
Yes.
A is
Yes, we'll go
Kmart.
through them. I'll go
You'll
through
go
the first.
through?
Yes, we'll go through each and one of the areas. So this is actually this is what we asked the community. This is area A, and here we've got just an overview, as you also will see in the summary document, of what the feedback of the submitters is. So we had 28 submissions in total, and you see in this particular area, 78% indicated that they agree to add the proposed area to the alcohol ban area. 18% disagrees, and one person didn't give an answer to this specific question. Then we can just go to the different reasons that were given for that, and everyone can go to page 5, because this is just a summary, but maybe everyone can go to page 5 in their summary document, and to see reasons that have been given on why they think they agree or disagree to add this area. And possibly discuss some of the comments that are provided. So they're all gathered on page 5.
Any comments on page 5? Neil?
Just the comment, why it isn't supported under why all alcohol sellers in the block close at 9:30, 30 minutes after the ban starts. Could you put some context around that?
So that's the question.
It's a question that posed, the submitters posed.
Yes. And I think that's what Mr. Fable just sort of spoke to, that he doesn't understand. Or Tony, I see you going for the microphone.
So David's making the assumption that the supermarket on that block, the countdown block, have I got the right block here? Hold on. Yes, yeah. So with the supermarket closing at 9 o'clock, therefore the liquor sales close then, therefore there's no justification for the car park area being included. However, it's possibly missing the point that people may be parking there and wandering into town, or be at a function somewhere, and pop in and then pop out to their car to take their goods and then carry on their evening. So it's possibly connecting to quite separate issues.
And the supermarket closes at 9:30 now. In the future, it could close whenever it wishes. Could it?
Yes, it could.
Yeah.
Within its resource consent conditions.
Oh, it's resource consent conditions on it, yeah.
I'm pretty sure it could stay open. Through you, Mr. Chair, it could stay open later, I think, than that. I don't know what hours are actually on the resource consent. But probably the short answer is there isn't really a link between the hours in the bylaw and the hours of the off licences.
Thank you.
If there's, if you're happy for me to go to the next slide, that will actually be when I ask your.
Sorry, Lynette.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, just one submitter was worried about the broken glass and the lack of rubbish bins. So I guess that will come with a discussion with us later on if more is needed, or it was just a point he made amongst the submissions and the cleaning up of pavements.
Yes, we asked the roading team also to get back to that, and they say whenever there is an incident of glass on the road and people report it to council, they will try to clear that, yes.
Oh, Phil.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Sandra McClintock has a theme running through hers that it's not important, we should be spending money on potholes. I think we should probably talk about that, and it's a nipping things in the bud before they really get going sort of situation, isn't it? Where we don't want unruly behaviour, harm and the likes taking place. So it's a prevention thing.
I can probably answer that.
Yeah, is there any further comment on that, or?
Jane?
I think probably the answer to that is that this bylaw doesn't actually cost us any money at all other than signage, because it's the police that do the enforcement. So there's not really any cost to the council. We engage Talbot Security to do regular patrols and the like, but much to their annoyance, they can't really enforce this because they need a police officer with them, because they can't force somebody to give them their name and address for the purposes of an infringement notice. So they can only do it if the police are with them, in which case the police should just be doing it anyway. There's not really any point in having the security company as well. So the answer to that particular submission is it's not costing the council money.
Okay. Thanks, Jane.
All right, so for us officers, it's important to get your confirmation on the question we asked the community. And this is referring to the specific, we'll go through each of the individual areas. Okay. So this is referring to Block A. Do people want me to go back to would you like me to go back to the map to show? This is Block A.
Tony?
Okay, Councillor, oh, sorry, Neil.
Just following on from Jane's comment about only the police can issue infringement notices, could council warrant the security guards to do that? Is that a possibility?
We don't want to do that.
That wasn't the question. Could you do that?
Yeah, I still don't know whether they've got the power to be able to force somebody to give them their name and address. Do you know, Rick? Or Tanya?
Thank you. Through the chair, it's my understanding that no, we can't do that. There's specific directions around warrants concerning the stop and ask questions, as in it's an arresting type scenario, so they can't be warranted for that. And it's the police that do the infringements regards the alcohol. Is that correct? Yeah.
Could we just have it checked or clarified that the security guards can't, or someone can't be warranted to do it by council? It's just so we're 100% clear on that. You won't have the answer now, I know, but...
No, Tanya's going to check that for you. But,
Cool.
Thank you.
Sorry, just on that though, the other point is probably that the attitude of the police is that it's education first rather than going around dishing out infringements that'll probably never see the light of day.
Okay, so you're happy to do it zone by zone? Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
So our councillor's happy to add Zone A to the alcohol ban? Yes. All happy? Okay, thank you.
We'll go to the Block B. It's where the former Briscoe's was. Is everyone clear what area we're referring to? Mm-hmm. So here there were 80% of the submitters agreed with adding the proposed area, 14% disagreed, and one person didn't answer. And again, there were reasons given in support and reasons why it isn't supported, which are similar, not often specific to the area, but are similar, more general comments on why people are in support or not in support. And the more details, the more extensive details are on page 7.
Comments, councillors?
We've already discussed those.
Yeah, okay.
If there's no further comments, yes, through the chair.
Beating you to it. So our councillor's happy to add Block B to the alcohol ban. All in favour? Thank you.
All right, so we'll go to Block C, which is the block, the countdown, and there was 78% in favour, 80% disagreed, adding the proposed area, and one person didn't answer. And again, some reasons given, and the more detailed feedback on page 9.
Any comments?
Just a question, under the new rules, it seems drinking in the cinema park would be an offence. Would it be? It would be.
Yes, it would be. Tanya, would you be happy to answer that it is an offence?
It would be an offence.
Yes, it would. It would.
Yes, it would be an offence.
Yes,
I'm
because
not
it's
sure
public. It's public.
Why anybody
Well,
would want
yeah,
to drink in
regarded
the
as a public place, yep.
Yeah, but it would be. That's right.
Would be.
It doesn't matter. The car parks, because I got tripped up on this, I couldn't work out why we would be doing that on privately owned, but because the car park can be accessed by the public, it meets the definition under the bylaw for being a public place.
Tanya?
Yeah, the only thing I can elaborate on that is the public place is around control and what the landowner or landowner or occupier can do in terms of controlling, allowing people on the land. So in this case, the cinema car park, which is the one in question here, the public are freely able to use that car park. And the landowner can exclude people from that car park if they wish. You know, they've got rights under the Trespass Act to trespass someone from the car park. So it's deemed to be a public place for the purpose of the Act. So, and that's the purpose. When we do alcohol control bylaws, there's quite an additional set of controls around restricting people's freedoms and those type of rules we need to meet purely because we are actually putting restrictions on private land.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Richard.
It's, can you clarify to me, in the bylaw it says no person shall have or in his or her possession any time any glass drinking vessel or containers in the glass ban areas, which is Schedule 1 and 2, which is all the areas. Does that mean that I find it difficult to perhaps follow the dots through, and that you're allowed to have, our ban says no alcohol in those areas, and then it says exceptions. The exceptions are under the Act, I think it is, which says you're allowed to transport alcohol, but then down the bottom we've got one that says no glass. Does that mean, so how does the no glass, the ban of glass in the area equate to transportation of people taking it from A to B, if you know what I mean? What I'm concerned about is that it's a bit ambiguous, which leaves an area where enforcement can have unintended consequences.
Thank you. Who wishes to answer that?
So the glass ban areas are specific. Are you referring, because that's another specific identified area?
So to expand on that, if there's a BYO restaurant opens in the new Triangle precinct, and the only place you can find a car park is in an alcohol ban area, and you're carrying your bottle of wine from that car park to that BYO restaurant, you're breaking the law. No, you're not.
Can we bring up a map of the glass ban areas? The glass ban areas are very small.
You're not breaking the law.
They're not
It's the yellow dots. Sorry, it's a bit small.
so it's the skate park and the fountain. So it's not the entire.
That's the glass plate.
Yeah.
Glass ban, so that's, yeah, only 2 sites for glass, thank you. So I had a supplementary question too. With what's happening in the Triangle, and that's expanding that way, and there's going to be more places, I think, serving alcohol in that area, are we taking in enough of that surrounding, like, is the car park at the Devon Hotel included in this and that sort of thing, just so that we're ticking all those boxes with that development that's happening now?
These areas there were other areas discussed during the pre-consultation, but the tri-agencies, these are the areas that they would recommend to consult on to be added.
Any other comment on that?
I suppose just one comment is, although there's nothing to stop you being proactive with bylaws, you've got to be a wee bit careful that you're not imposing a whole lot of rules where there isn't actually a problem, and that's one thing with these areas that leaves me slightly uncomfortable. You can come back at any time and amend your bylaw. Admittedly, you've got to go through the special consultative procedure again, but I suppose you could end up with half your town being covered by something when it wasn't an issue. That would be my only concern.
I just think there's a nightclub thought of for the triangle as well, isn't there, which tends to be one of those congregations.
I haven't seen a nightclub on the plans. I've seen a bar, restaurant and a cooking school and another sort of a tavern-y type pub, but yeah.
Thanks, Emka.
Through the chair, are you happy to give your council direction on Block C?
So are we in favour of adding Block C? Yes.
Thank you. We'll go to Medfin, where there is a small area added. It's a bit of a different situation there. The current border of the alcohol ban area actually goes through property. It was hard to identify, so there was the request to sort of tidy it up, the current area, and make it a more an area that you could clearer indicate, and to add that little loop to the area. And there was 71% of the submitters that agreed, 18% did not agree, and 3% three people, didn't answer that question. Okay. And specific feedback on that on page 11 and 12.
And I think it's worth noting that the Medfin Community Board were in favour of the extension. Any comments, councillors? Oh, sorry, Liz.
No, thank you. Through the chair, just one comment. There was submission anonymous 4 supporting the extension to include the Medfin domain, and I guess the reason why Mackey Street area was included is because people will walk home. You can see the domain right there to the right of it. I know we talked about this yesterday when we were talking about a different situation, but yeah, is there anything we can do with the domain, or is because it is council land as well?
I think that's covered under the open spaces bylaw. Is that correct, that you're not actually allowed to drink on that space anymore?
Oh, okay. Yes, we did talk about that. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, we were going to check that, but I hadn't, and I looked at Tony to see if she had, but
I checked it yesterday when we had it come up in discussion, so all of council's open spaces are covered by that clause in the open spaces bylaw, so every
So
domain.
you can't go to the domain and have a picnic with a bottle of wine?
No.
That's not very fair.
So in that case, I mean, it makes sense having Mackey Street included, because at the top of the M of Mackey Street, that's sort of where the people will walk out of the pubs, etc. And the other thing I think to note is that Medfin has, when you're entering the liquor band area, it has stencils on the footpath that have probably become a bit worn, but they're sort of the only notification of entering into a liquor ban. So I think until this is passed, you're waiting to get those redone again, which will make sense.
Yeah, okay.
Then I will, through the chair, ask your direction on adding the loop, the proposed loop on Mackey Street in the Medfin alcohol ban area.
Okay, councillors, are we happy with the Medfin ban in the Medfin area? All happy? Yes? Yeah.
Thank you. There were if you go to pages 13 in the summary document, there's other feedback presented in the by the submitters when in the any other comment section. If you have any questions on comments made or want to further discuss.
I think from where I sit, the police are in favour of what we're trying to achieve. The Hospitality New Zealand also in favour of what we're achieving, and the vast majority of our submitters are also. So I think we have a reasonably positive tick there, really. Questions, councillors?
Not a question, but just a comment that Hospitality New Zealand sort of said they reached out to their members and they, the responses were agreed on as well, which I think is a good sort of indication.
Thank you. Are you happy for me to move to the
Yes.
last?
Yep.
So that's some general topics that came through on, not specifically on the questions that we asked. So there were in various submissions some other areas proposed, and I see that I've just missed the one on Kermode Street and Dobson Street West. So the Metfin, we just discussed it. So the Metfin domain is mentioned, Ashburton domain and Harrison Street. It's already been discussed just now, but I think it's these were brought up as well. Then there was another issue, a couple of times mentioned the issue of glass on the road, and then there were references in the general topics referring actually to alcohol licensing. So that's part of the lab and not the alcohol control bylaw.
Yep.
But if there's any of the items you would want to discuss or anything that came up from the hearings today that you would want us to look further into?
Richard?
I'd like everybody to have a think about, in the actual, in the not the submission, what do you call it, the bylaw, 7 permanent alcohol bans. I don't believe we've made it very clear in that we've got a ban on things, but then and then the exception is sort of afterwards, and so the exception is the law, but it means that to the layperson who reads it, they read there's a full ban on alcohol, and it can be open to, you've got to have some legal knowledge or some ability to read it to realise that you are allowed to do something because you've got an exception through the actual country's laws. And we've got a bylaw that I don't think is clear. It says that there's a ban on bringing alcohol into an alcohol ban area, possessing alcohol in an alcohol ban area. To me, that's quite clear. You're not allowed any alcohol in that area, full stop. And then it says there's an exception, unless exception applies under 9 and 10. And 9 and 10 is under the Government Act. We're stating something, and then why aren't we saying, trying to be more clear about the alcohol, unless you're allowed to, you're transporting it. You know, that's written in the permanent alcohol ban bylaw.
Tanya?
Yeah, we had this discussion at length when council first went out for consultation, and we have taken that feedback on board. And when you see the updated draft bylaw, it will have changes to reflect your comments. So, I think I could.
Abby?
When will we see that? Because we can't. Comes to council.
Sorry. I thought the date was on the next slide, but it's but it's not. So I'm not trying to cut you off. We will, following your advice or direction from today, we will prepare the draft alcohol control bylaw, which will be presented at council on the 17th of May.
Cool. Tanya?
I'm just going to answer the question that came up earlier about infringement, who can issue infringement notices. So under Section 245 of the Local Government Act, only police can issue infringement notices for breaching an alcohol ban, and similarly, only police can require people to provide information in relation to an infringement of a breach of an alcohol ban area. So it's written into the Local Government Act, so we can't warrant someone else because there's no exemptions in that section of the Act.
Thank you. Okay. Are we done?
There's no further questions.
Any other questions? All done? Okay. Thank you, councillors, for your deliberations. We're closed.
Now closed.
We're now closed.